Hello everyone, just a quick video to say a massive thank you. I've hit 25,000 subscribers on this channel, which is surreal and pretty bloody awesome. Yeah, so I think I've been doing YouTube now for about 3 years. I started kind of when COVID started because I was stuck at home and wanted to do something rather than watch YouTube, just try and make some YouTube videos. And it was, pretty slow start, but I guess kind of steady. There's been kind of times of growth and times of like loss of growth. Yeah, I kind of have gotten used to this narrative that it'll be something on the side. It'll never be like a main thing for me, and it's just a nice thing to do before work once a week, sometimes twice a week. But I've always enjoyed it. I've always thought it's a really, really good use of my time. I've used it kind of selfishly in a way to have a platform to talk about the things I'm learning about, to kind of test myself, to see if I understand really the concepts I'm talking about. And I can tell on some videos, like, oh, I'm not quite there. Like, I've got to read more about that because that wasn't smooth. That wasn't obvious. It wasn't well explained. I'm every day I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm trying to be the best psychiatry doctor I can be. My goal is to essentially be a very good psychiatrist. It's one of my kind of life goals, and obviously I'm not there yet. But little by little, we'll get there. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I put up a post, and a couple of people have sent through some questions. Sorry, I'll finish the point I was just making. Another problem I have in YouTube, I'm quite tangential. But yeah, so I had this narrative that it'll always be something on the side, and just getting used to kind of low views, and that's fine. I had a couple of frequent commenters and a really nice community, but I don't know what's happened in the last kind of week. The YouTube algorithm has just kind of picked up my channel and let it fly, and it's had a big pop, which is awesome. And welcome to all the new people who have subscribed to the channel. Uh, it means the world to me. This is a really, really fun hobby, and I put a lot of effort into it. And to have any kind of recognition is just, it's really nice. A lot of people are much better than me at their hobbies, but don't get any kind of recognition. So I'm just really grateful that I got lucky. And I think luck has a big part to do with it. In a way, you do make your own luck to a level, to an extent. If you just keep on kind of posting regularly and keep trying to improve the quality of your videos, YouTube will eventually kind of reward that. But I don't think my videos are particularly of high, at least the scripts aren't high quality because I'm kind of just reflecting and talking about my thoughts on certain subject matters, and reflecting usually on content to share insights that I've gotten through work. But I don't have like a great script, and hopefully, well, maybe you can tell that by this tangent. Anyway, I wanted to answer some questions that you guys asked me. So let's go through some questions. All right, the first question, the Prince of Pisa. Interesting name. Congratulations. I hope your channel keeps growing because we need this type of content in our world. Thank you. Would you please give advice for caregivers and families of people undergoing psychosis due to schizophrenia? Thank you. I'm caring for a husband while we wait for a place in hospital, and it's not easy. Well, my heart goes out to you, Prince of Pisa. I think often psychosis affects those around the person more than the person themselves, because often they don't have insight into their psychosis. And I guess my advice is there's a lot to talk through, but it's not your fault. Do the best you can, but don't burn out. Okay. And if taking a step back means that there's suboptimal care or whatever, you've got to treat it like a marathon. Schizophrenia is a chronic illness, and it's about the long haul. And if you're burning out, you've got to tag someone else in. You've got to set boundaries, yeah, it needs a team involvement. And there are community supports out there, at least in Australia and most countries, that can help give you relief. And there are, like in Australia, there's carers support as well. So you can get a bit of an income if you're caring for someone with a chronic debilitating illness like schizophrenia. So just make sure you are using up all the supports available because there are a lot. And yeah, schizophrenia sucks. Congrats, Dr. Sill. You deserve more subscribers. Thanks. I love your mental health videos, but I miss your scrubs reaction videos. Eula's follower, they're coming. I know, I'm sorry. I did like a big phase of scrubs, then I've stopped. I kind of stopped because it's hard to screen record scrubs. Even though like a lot of the scrubs reactions aren't monetized, they're like their content. That and some of them are fair use, so they are monetized. But I found it hard to screen record. I did end up finding a workaround. Look, at the moment, I'm living at my in-laws' house, so I don't have really a good setup. Uh, and one of the questions is actually about my setup. So I don't, yeah, I will get back into it once I have some like at my studio. But yeah, in 2 weeks I will move into a new place and it'll have a room for YouTube, which is awesome. And oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna make so many videos. Um, Actually, one of the questions was about my setup, so maybe I'll show you guys my setup now. Bit dingy, but yeah. So if I'm filming my setup, I've got my camera, which is the A6500 Sony, which records in 4K. I use this wireless Go um, audio, and I leave it. You can actually hook it onto the camera, but I leave it off the camera because I think sometimes might pick up on sounds in the camera. I'm not sure. That's just something I saw on a YouTube video. And then you might see that there's a lavalier here, and in this pocket is the transmitter. Pretty good. So this whole audio setup is probably like 300 bucks. And the cameras are grand and the lens is, a couple $100. So it ain't cheap, but you buy these things little by little. I transport it in my little lunchbox. And then this is my kind of dodgy light setup. You got to work with what you got. And then this room has lights that you can't really control. So that is the setup. But yeah, Scrubs is coming back. Hey, Dr. Sill, I love your content. I was just wondering how psychiatrists deal with the emotional labor of their work. How do you disconnect from the stories of trauma you hear from your patients and not let it affect your mood or worldview? I'm very interested in psychiatry, but have always wondered this. Oh, thanks, because Michaela said so. I'll give that, yeah, I'll give all of these comments loves. Boom, boom. There you go. It's impo you can't not be affected by the stories you hear. It's about how much it affects you at a personal level, and how self-aware you are of the emotional trauma. I remember seeing a Reddit from a surgeon being like, he's in a couple with a psychiatrist, and he was like, my job is physically demanding and traumatic because I got to stand for 10 hours a day doing complex manual procedures. But my wife, the psychiatrist's job, is emotionally demanding, and although it's less hours, the weight is much higher. And I think that's right. I think in terms of the emotional kind of trauma exposure, or whatever you want to call it, intensity of jobs, psychiatry is way up there. I mean, I did a forensic term. I was working with mothers who had killed their children. I worked with teenagers in forensic teenager ward, and they'd killed their parents or siblings, or had been. I mean, the childhood trauma stories are very common, and very sad to hear. I don't know why it doesn't affect me more. I think it's maybe a genetic thing. I think it may be because I've developed a worldview where I understand that shit happens. Um, and I think that I have a good balance between work and other things to sublimate my kind of psychic pain. So, if I'm hearing something that's painful, that hurts mentally and emotionally, and so I have hobbies to sublimate. And what that means is I can use the kind of, let's just call it emotional energy from one thing, sublimate it into something else. So instead of like crying or cuddling a patient, sometimes you want to give people a hug, right? But you can't really do that, of course. So you get these urges or these impulses, and so what do you want to do? You got to use that energy somewhere else healthy. So I work out, I play video games, I meditate and yoga, and want to get back into boxing one day to get a boxing bag. So I think balance is probably the answer. I think all life is about homeostasis and achieving a sense of balance. And So the more emotional trauma your job brings, the more other things you need to do to balance that intensity. But everyone's different. Some people they can't like some people can't spend 5 minutes in the room talking about childhood trauma and that they need to leave, and that's fine. I've had a couple of doctors I've worked with that just needed psychiatrist not for them, and then other people just have a kind of capacity to not get too personally affected by it. And I think that's me. I think if I heard these stories from someone that I loved and cared about in an intimate way, like a partner or a family member, um, it would be a very different internal experience for me. So there's some kind of wall there. But maybe I'll explore that with a therapist one day. I'm not quite sure. Would I consider doing videos with other YouTubers like Dr. K and Dr. Mark Schwartz? I think collaborations would be awesome. Schedule for a meeting. Thank you, the nurse who loved me. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I really like Dr. K. I admit I haven't gotten into Dr. Schwartz yet, but I'll check out that channel. Dr. K, I think it's really, really good. I don't, I'm not quite on their level yet. It could be an interesting thing to compare, like Australia versus US versus whatever. But yeah, I'm into gaming, and so Dr. K obviously is one of the big streamers and um, gurus around video game addiction. And what I appreciate about his channel is his like his commitment to incorporating cultural and spiritual elements um, into the discussion of mental health from a psychiatric perspective. Because it's really, really common that psychiatrists just talk about the drugs, the psychologists just talk about the therapy, and the rest of allied health is trying to say, remember exercise, remember yoga, remember this, remember that. And we need to all have a bit of a pluralist approach. So yeah, when people ask me if I'm like into psychotherapy, I go yes. If I'm like, do I think psychopharmacology is important? I think yes. I think it's all important, and you need to have. I guess the line I always say to patients is that mental health problems are very complex, and therefore the solutions are usually complex. So you need multiple tools in the toolkit, and you need to find the right cocktail for you. All right, comment from Sean Tracy. Huge congratulations. I have a couple of questions. Is 35 years old too old to start your degree in psychology or psychiatry? Well, that's up to you. There's definitely, I've met psychiatrists who started at 50. I think probably 60's pushing it, but it kind of depends what you want to achieve and how you see your life. It's everyone's different. Just to remember the difference between psychiatry and psychology. Psychiatry, you have to do a medical degree. So that means either an undergraduate medical degree of 6 years or an undergrad of 3 or 4 years, and then a postgrad of 4 years. So it's usually around 8 years in Australia to get your medical degree. Then you've got to do junior doctoring for 2 years, and then you've got to do your training for 5 years. So to do psychiatry is a very long, extensive process where you need skills in a lot of other areas of medicine first. In psychology, it's I think a 3-year undergrad plus honors plus PhD or masters. So another 2 or 3 years. So I think it's about 3, 4, 6-ish years or 7-ish years to do psychology. So yeah, you're in the double digits if you want to. You're doing a decade of study at least for psychiatry. But it gives you a very good holistic view of the human body most of the time. But yeah, everyone's different, and it gives you way more tools to manage mental illness. I bought the DSM-5. That's the kind of diagnostic manual that we use to label people with diagnoses. I've got some reservations towards it, but anyway, that's for a different video. And was wondering if you could discuss how it can be best utilized by the general population. I bought it as a learning tool to know how but I know the dangers of diagnosing the self and others. Great. Well, look, I don't think it's useful for the general population. I think it's really, what the DSM does is it gives us a tool to communicate a list of symptoms someone is experiencing and tells us nothing about why they're experiencing those symptoms. And the treatment is in the why. The communication is in the what. So I can tell someone that this person's having a major depressive episode with intrusive thoughts of self-harm. Why? There's many different. There's a melancholic depression. There's a post-trauma response. There's a psychosocial stresses. There's so many different reasons, and all of those reasons will have different treatments. So it's not helpful. You shouldn't use it if you're not trained in psychiatry or psychology. and really the weight. Like I think a big problem in the world at the moment is people say, "Oh, I have ADHD. I'll just take stimulants and there you go." Well, ask why. Like, why do you think you have ADHD? What happened? Well, maybe it was. I won't go into the whys. The point is, like, these are lists of symptoms that are a consequence of um, of something, and it's the something where the work is and where the treatment is, not in the just list of symptoms. Which is tricky because all of our guidelines are based on the list of symptoms, and that's why when we say SSRIs don't work or they don't work well, for some people they work very well and some people they don't work very well. So there are hyposerotonergic depressions out there, and there are depressions that aren't related to serotonin, uh, you know, metabolism. So yeah, it's tricky. All right, I'm taking so long. I'm going to go through two more. Do you agree with marijuana legalization by Megan Waters? Let me just give everyone love. Sorry, I don't have time to go through all of these because it's 6:49 a.m. guys. This is this is when I do my videos before work, so I got to run soon. But do I agree with marijuana legalization? Yeah, actually I do. I think, but it's nuanced. So here's the thing. Okay, I haven't actually made this perspective public, so let me kind of word it carefully and just understand that I'm a doctor in training. I'm not a psychiatrist, but this is a personal view, not a professional one. I think marijuana is an okay drug. I think it's probably overall better than alcohol, and I think it's okay after you sort your shit out. I think it's a great drug after you sort your shit out. What do I mean by that? Marijuana can destroy lives if you smoke it in your teen years because it gives you the false sense that everything's fine, and and so it's the motivation killer. You need motivation in your teen years to work hard, to fail, and to want to overcome your failures. And that's important for you to complete your potential. And a lot of stories of marijuana are, you smoked in your teen years, you tried at something, you failed at it, you just to cope with that pain of loss of not being as good as you hoped to be, you smoked weed, gave you a false sense of security, and that's the path you went down. And so you never really achieved your capacity. So it's okay drug after you sort your shit out. So once you have a career, once you are on your path, then you can smoke it once, maybe 4 times a year, not too much, but to have a whatever, if it's a safe amount, not too much, and it helps with feeling good. I'm not against people having a good time, and if it's not dangerous to others, like I like Snoop Dogg's explanation. If you get a room full of like, I think let's just say he said brothers. If you get a room full of brothers and you give them all weed, everyone's going to be like chilling, hanging out, cuddling, it's all good. If you get a room full of brothers and you give them all whiskey, there's going to be fights. So yeah, weed's good that way. I think it just makes people eat too much and and that sort of thing. Now the thing around psychosis, not it's not most people who smoke weed don't become psychotic. There's people with genetic vulnerabilities, family histories, who are kind of already kind of going towards psychosis, that it kind of precipitates the psychosis. That's the thinking. Or it brings someone who was going to develop psychosis later, it brings it earlier. That's the thinking I've been told about. I haven't personally gone through the primary literature about it, so I'm not 100% sure. I'll do a video about it one day though. When I do my drug and alcohol term, I'll probably deep dive and look it up. But that's how I feel about it at the moment. It's subject to change. I think I've ranted on enough for this video. Um, I think I had one more question on Instagram. Oh yeah, like how do I do doctoring and YouTubing and things? Look, yeah, I basically just do it before work. So the time now is 6:52 a.m. I start at 8. So I'm going to finish this video. I'm going to quickly edit it. I'm going to upload it, and then I'm going to start work. But the cost of that is after work, I am out of energy. I usually can't keep doing anything productive. So I usually just play video games and chill. Yeah, I'm playing Warzone at the moment. You guys should comment down below if you're playing any video games. What video games are you playing? And that would be fun. If you have any more questions, put them in the comments. I'll do another video if you like. I love these kind of videos, so that's why I did it. It's fun to be personal with you guys and not just talk about I don't know, mental health issues. But yeah, I wish you all a beautiful day, lots of love, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.